Welcome to the Magdalene Voices, giving voice to those silenced for centuries through sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls. I am your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Maria Estella. I serve spiritual entrepreneurs, Magdalene's rising, and radiant beings just like you with the expansion and growth of yourself and your business, aligning you with your deep inner truth, bringing to life that which you're here to birth, and supporting you in expressing your soul's divine purpose through your being and your doing in this lifetime. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to join my newsletter to stay connected and updated. You can do so on my website, mariaestella.com, where you can also find previous episodes and their show notes. And if you have ever wondered about your Magdalene connection and calling, and whether you are a Magdalene, I invite you to download the free Magdalene Blueprint I've created for you. Go to mariaestella.com/AYM to get it. Hello, Radiant One, and a very big and a very warm welcome to today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. In today's episode, I am going to dive deep into what I see as the path or the evolution of a soul-driven, heart-based entrepreneur. It could probably also be called, the journey through the shadow aspects of our divine feminine and masculine into the sacred union, the divine union of our divine feminine and divine masculine aspects. Before we really dive in, I want to just make sure that you understand that whenever I mention the word feminine or masculine, I am not referring to a specific gender. I am referring to the polarities that exist within each and every one of us, whether we be born gender with a gender or do not have a gender, or don't find ourselves to be able to relate to any gender. These are the polarities that exist within this world that we are in. You see them also in other areas, like we have hot and cold, we have wet, and we have dry, and we have hard, and we have soft. So we have all of these different polarities, and just the same, you have the polarity of the divine feminine, the masculine and the feminine essences within you. The divine feminine and the divine masculine also have their shadow aspects, which are based in fear. But being based in fear does not mean that there's not lessons to be learned, and then there are not, very important wisdom and wise wisdom to be had from those places within us. It simply means that when you're willing to look and to see, then you will find the golden nuggets, the pieces, the wisdom that really resides within you. And that is what really leads you into the sacred marriage, the divine union of your divine feminine and your divine masculine essences. Now, with that out of the way, if you've been with me for a while, you may have remember that I shared a revelation I had back in February of 2017 about the divine essences and their shadow aspects. Basically, I received a whole I want to call it structure or system where I could see how different stages of my life where I had been based in either the divine feminine, or no, not the divine feminine, but when I had been based in the shadow aspects, either the feminine or the masculine, and also where I had actually had drops of divine feminine or masculine. Now, I will be linking to that. I'll be linking to that. I think it's an episode of the Magdalene Voices. I'll be linking to that in show notes. So if you're curious about that, you can go ahead and check that out. Now, since then, having worked with, in the basis of this format or structure or download as I received it, I've seen it not only within myself, I've also seen it within the clients that I work with, and also really within the world and within basically everyone I've ever met or everyone I ever meet. I can kind of, very quickly assess whether or not, what they're based in and what they quote unquote need to work on, or what could be beneficial for them to work on. And I thought I would share these stages that I see so that they may serve you, and that you may find yourself and also realize and maybe understand, where am I off, where am I in, what can I do in order to bring in that divine union, the sacred marriage, because that is really where the joy and the liberation and the satisfaction and the sense of accomplishment and just overall amazing beingness in this world resides. And there's really no way around it or out of it. It's only by going through that you're able to get to that quote unquote place. And when I say place, it's not really like a physical place or even a mental place. It's it just is. It's a state of being, I would say. And it comes through the work that you do within yourself as well as within the world. Now, in terms of the, I've called them stages or phases. There seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a seventh is beginning to appear as well. So we start by the first one. The first one, I haven't really called it anything other than a pre-stage. It's basically you living your life, going about your day. It's probably not the most exciting life. It's probably but it doesn't have to be mundane. It can just be, you're quote unquote living your life and not really having any sort of big moments or low moments. It's just maybe perhaps even a flat life. That could be said, like a flatline life. And then there comes a time that I call the pre-awakening. There's a moment when you begin to realize that that you are in some way, shape, or form disconnected. Whether you ascribe to the notion of God or source or the universe or whatever you want to call it, there comes a time where you feel as though you may be either conscious or unconscious. It doesn't have to be a conscious decision, realizing I am disconnected, and so you begin to seek out different methodologies. It can be either or. For many, I know it's not. I don't. For most I see, this phase is not really conscious. You don't realize that that's what you're doing. You just do it because that's what you're being called to. And so you may begin seeking out things like yoga or, dancing of sorts. You may seek out meditation and begin to have a practice. It can be, essential oils or crystals or tarot cards. And it can be finding, going to church, coming back to your religion. There are many different outlets in which that you, quote unquote, are returning home. But it doesn't necessarily, like I said, have to be conscious. And most likely it isn't conscious in any way, shape, or form. Now, once you've made that, and that is, that this is something that's external, you start by seeking something out in the world, because that's what we've been conditioned to. We look for, if we feel that something is off, we look for a solution out there in the world. And so there is a learning or a training in realizing that everything that you seek is really within, and that's where it starts. Then the next phase becomes a more conscious phase, because as you begin to really implement these, rituals and strategies, or doing these things, what happens is that the divine feminine essence within you, she rises. You're essentially reconnecting with a part of yourself that most likely has been forgotten or left out or even suppressed and ignored for a very, very long time. time. And so she begins to rise. And again, when I say she, I'm not referring to a specific gender. I'm referring to the divine feminine essence within you. And that is where your intuition strengthens. It's where your consciousness grows. It's where your gnosis, your downloads become more. They come through clearer and stronger, and you come into a state of feeling really connected within, and then and this is where most people come see me or find me in some way or form. And this is probably why you're listening to this or watching this. There comes a time when you realize that your way of doing, which is in the realm of the divine masculine, that your realm of doing, your realm of action, of building, of creation, is no longer resonant with the truth that you carry within, the truth that has come through you reconnecting with your divine feminine essence. You begin to understand, this is my truth, these are my values, this is what I stand for. However, both your external appearance maybe and also your actions and your doing are not in accord with that, and so that creates a very, very strong tension, and it can lead to depression. It can lead to long periods of not doing. It can lead to stress. It can lead to physical illness, because there is a tension in what you stand for and believe and are in truth, and then what you're actually doing. And this is, like I said, this is the realm of the divine masculine. I've said this many times before on the podcast and the show, and I'll say it again, is that we've, through our being in a patriarchal society, we've been brought up in a patriarchal society that is heavily influenced and based in the shadow realm of shadow masculine aspects and also shadow feminine aspects, going against the grain, so to speak, having your connection and understanding that what you see is not right, and it's not just, and it's not fair. The work that it takes for you to shake off your uncast the shackles and really say, no, this is not right, to set boundaries. That work is not for those faint at heart. I've said this over and over again. I do not believe the notion that spiritual work is light work. Not in the common sense that is. I believe that it is deep and it is dark, and it is not for those faint at heart. It is for the brave ones, the courageous ones. It is for the ones who are willing to forge ahead, in order, not just for themselves, but in order to pave the way for others to do the same, to become the inspiration. It's basically like a drop of water into a pond or a lake. You spread the rings, and that is how change happens. It doesn't happen by us telling people what to do or forcing them to do it. It comes by being the demonstration of your truth, by being the inspiration, and that is how. So it sends out an energy wave, and people will recognize and understand what is going on. Maybe not on a physical level, but on a spiritual level, they will recognize what is going on. So that's a period of undoing, where once again you come to the realization that what you're doing is out of alignment. And especially in the world of entrepreneurs and online marketing, there is a lot of fear-based marketing, and so you will probably feel like the methods that you are using and have been using feels icky and off and quote unquote disgusting as well. You may even get to that point where, and so you don't want to use them, but you don't understand or you don't know what else to do. And so then enters, and that's, like I said, these are the period of times where it seems to be where people quote unquote find me, because there needs to be a healing of your divine masculine essence. There needs to be a healing through your healing your shadow, the shadow aspects of your masculine essence. There needs to be a release of the shame and the guilt and the grief and the maybe even trauma. There needs to be a healing and a release of that, and that is done through the only thing quote unquote that works, that is, I call it smother it with love. It is by acknowledging yourself, by being as kind, caring, and compassionate as you can possibly be in order for you to heal those aspects. It's also about changing the way that you've been doing things. And like I said, this can be really, really difficult and also very scary, because if you've been used to making your living doing things a certain way, and that's been bringing you in a lot of money, there can be a lot of fear in changing those. And I also honor that that there can for a time there can be a decrease in your income because of this, while you find your feet and you're bearing in this new way of not only being, but in your new way of doing. So if you're in either of these places, I want you to know that there is a way, and I see it not only in myself, but I see it in the way that, or in the clients that I work with, that it is possible to both be and do from a space of heart and soul and love, and be driven from that place, and calling in those who are ready for that kind of work. I don't think that you would be here had you not been ready. Now, once you have healed, and the thing is, I don't think that we're ever fully quote unquote finished. But I do know that there is a point where you get to what's called divine union, or the sacred marriage, and that is where your being and your doing is so fully aligned that once you receive your downloads, your gnosis, and that can come in the form of products and services. It can come in the form of this, like a podcast, or showing up on social media. It can come in teaching, or whatever it is that is coming, the gnosis, the downloads that you're receiving. They then have, when I say external, there comes a piece that lies within the realm of the divine masculine. So that's the building, that's the creation of the products and services that you've been receiving as downloads. You actually create those, you put them out into the world, and you then take the steps to market and sell and coach, guide, teach, whatever it is, heal, whatever it is that your realm is. There's a clear dance, I want to call it, between your divine feminine and your divine masculine essence. And this does not mean that that you don't ever have the emotions or the feelings or the sensations that lies within the realm of the shadow aspects. It simply means that when those show up, you see them as the signals that they are, that the messengers that they are, and you, rather than deny or rather than ignore or suppress them, you invite them in, and you quote unquote sit with them at the bonfire, and you have a conversation with them and ask them what they're here to teach you and here to show you, so that you understand that. And this is, if you can hear me getting excited, it's probably because, like I've said, I think I've said this many times before, for me, one of my favorite goddesses is Kali Ma, who's known as the destroyer. And not necessarily seen, I don't think she gets the credit that she really deserves, in terms of she doesn't destroy for the sake of destroying, she destroys for the sake of new birth, of rising. And so in the divine union, in the phase of divine union, that's basically what you're able to do. You no longer resist the fire. You no longer resist the destroying or the death or the falling apart of things, because you understand that through that comes a new it's the same as with the quote where you say, in the darkness, it's not the darkness of the tomb, it's the darkness of the womb. And that's basically what you're able to do in that phase, as well as experience massive amounts of satisfaction. And that's a satisfaction that doesn't have anything to do with what you have, where you live, and cannot be measured in worldly goods, what car you drive or what clothes you wear. That's not what I mean. In this space, there is you get these, at least that's how I experience it. You get these moments, and they, in the beginning, they're of course brief, but as you continue your work, as you strengthen that connection within, and you strengthen your ability to both be and do with your again, engaging your and activating your divine masculine, these moments of utter bliss expand and become more and more part of your everyday life, which is unreal. And even when I hear myself saying this and talking to this, there are times where I'm like, had I heard myself talking 10 years ago, I would have thought I was batshit crazy. Because I think I understood that there was there was a possibility that this was a possibility, but really having it be an energy or a frequency that resonates within me is just, I can't, it's hard to describe other than to let you know that it is possible, no matter where you are right now in either of these phases, how dark you may be, there is a way, and that way is through, and it's, love is the way. What I've also, so those are the first 6 phases of, the path or evolution of what I call the soul-driven, heart-based entrepreneur, in terms of the divine feminine and divine masculine essences and their shadow aspects. But what I am seeing is also that there is, after that, because where do you go once you have divine union? You just, it's all about ascension, and then you go to hell. Not, you don't go to hell, but you go to heaven. And like I said, I don't think that we're ever done. I think that we're here to bring in the light. We're here to bridge heaven on earth, and through our being and our doing, create heaven on earth. And like I've said before, enlightenment is really about bringing light into your body and your cells, and becoming light, both in in every sense of the word, light in terms of being light, so light that you can move through the world. And I don't want to say not be affected by things, because that would be spiritual bypassing, but being able to work for truth, work for justice, work for the right for all, and at the same time not be bogged down by hate or jealousy or fear. There is a reason I'm not mentioning anger, because I believe that holy anger can be a very powerful catalyst for transformation and for change. So I don't think that anger is off or wrong, as I don't think that jealousy or hate or any of those other emotions or feelings are off. It's a matter of finding the messages, the wisdom that they bring to you, and if you're willing to look at that, you will probably have revelatory experiences in terms of what they're actually there to show you, and what they come from, and how they can support you in your own personal development as well as your professional. Now, like I said, there seems to be what I called a blind phase. So once you've done the work, you are living in the phase of what I call divine union, and you still have those like I said, those moments of the shadow aspect showing up, I get this sense that there is what I called a blind phase. And the blind phase is when we're quote unquote blinded, as teachers or as coaches or healers, or however, you show up in the world. There is a blind phase where we are quote unquote blinded. I say we're blinded because I use the quotations because it's not to say that we become victims of the world. I don't think that we are, or ever will be, at the force of some quote unquote God who, it will test us. My clear understanding is that all of the challenges and the obstacles that we experience are really there to strengthen us, and to remind us of who we are in truth. And it is, again, through the work that you do, that you will rediscover who you really are and just how powerful and strong and amazing and beautiful you are. And so those quote unquote blind phases are moments when we get blinded, where we're unable. There's maybe, and it's not necessarily because we don't want to see. I believe that it's a phase of there's a very very there's a reason for it. There's a reason why we get blinded, and it's so we're able to clear out more muck, we're able to clean out more, we're able to receive more lessons as we go through life. The reason I don't know too much about it is because I haven't yet. I've seen it. It's seen, and I don't want to. When I see it in others, I don't necessarily want to speak to it. But it's the phase that quote unquote I myself, I don't want to say waiting for, but I think that it will arise. That there will be periods of time where I and we will be blinded, and then the work is then to begin to see again, to lift the veils, because that is really what all this work is about. It's about lifting the veil so that you may see with your inner eyes, hear with your inner ears, feel with your inner feelings and senses, and so forth. So, and as I said, this is a phase or a period where it's all about, again, being strengthened even further in your foundation, in what you stand. And it can also become phases of, rebirth and renewal. So those are the phases. So those are the 7 phases that I've discovered or seen so far. And I would love to have you, I would love to hear your how it resonates, your comments. So go ahead and leave me a comment on the blog, or even on social media. I would love to hear how these resonates with you, and how you where you found yourself, or how you see yourself moving through these phases as a soul-driven, heart-based entrepreneur. Now, if you want to continue the work, if you want to continue the work, especially of healing those shadow aspects, and also activating and engaging your divine masculine essence, there are 3 ways or 3 tools that I have that you can use. The number one is that I'm going to, in the show notes, there's a link and to the blog post, and in that in those show notes, I'm going to be gathering some links for some episodes of the Magdalene Voices that can support you in this. There's going to be links to some articles and to some videos, so that you can, this is free, and you can go ahead and do your, your own research and look at these and see how that can support you in every one. I usually support you in uncovering more of your own truth, and also activating the divine masculine, activating and engaging your divine masculine essence. Then secondly, I have for the Magdalene Rising Sacred Membership Circle, the theme for August was divine union, balancing your divine feminine and your divine masculine essences through the healing of their shadow aspects. I've decided to make that into a product so you can purchase it without being part of the circle. It's $44, and there will be, again, in the show notes, you'll find a link to that. And finally, of course, you can choose to work with someone like me. You can do that either in a one-on-one setting, or you can do it through group work as in a mastermind. My mastermind will start in, the next round will start in January. And you can go ahead and sign up for my newsletter, and that way you'll be on the waiting list, and I'll let you know once that opens. And then, like I said, if it's something that you are wanting to do one-on-one, you can go ahead and apply for a totally free discovery session with me, and you can apply for that, and I'll again include the links. I just want to quickly say that a discovery session with me is not a sales call. It's a real session. I lean into the trust of knowing that when it's right, it's right. And so rather than me trying to force a sale upon you, which would be within the realm of the shadow aspects, I am leaning into my divine feminine and my divine masculine, knowing that to give you an experience of what working with me is like is what is going to let you know whether it is right for you or not. So just know that whenever you have a discovery call with me or session with me, it's a real session. It's not a sales call. That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. I hope it served you, and I would love for you to leave me a comment and share how this resonated with you and how you have seen your own journey in each of these phases, where you currently find yourself. And if you have a question about anything that I've shared, you're more than welcome to leave it on the blog as well. I'll be happy to support you that way. And finally, I hope you will take a moment and share it with someone who is a soul-driven, heart-based entrepreneur, and who could find some value in hearing this as well. That is what I had for you today. I love you. Till next time, take care. That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. For all of the deeds and the details, find the show notes on my website, mariastella.com. Know that I would love to hear how it resonated with you and what you got from it. So tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment on either my website or YouTube. Finally, if it served you, please take a moment to share it with a friend or on social media. God bless.